Most people don't destroy their financial future in one dramatic moment. No, it's usually quieter than that. They start a budget, then stop. They open the investment account, then leave it sitting empty. They make a plan, get motivated, build momentum, and then right before consistency becomes part of their identity, they disappear from their own progress. Not because they're stupid or lazy, and not always because they lack discipline. Sometimes the real problem is deeper. Sometimes your brain is not trying to make you wealthy, but trying to ensure your safety. And if safety has always looked like survival, familiar struggle, immediate relief, and short-term control, then long-term wealth can feel strangely threatening. That is where self-sabotage begins. Today, we're going to explore why people keep starting and stopping wealth plans, but we're going to go deeper than the usual advice. We'll look at what technology has done to our attention and reward systems, what biology reveals about why the brain fights delayed rewards, and we'll introduce clinical studies that explain why some people sabotage right when the finish line is in view. Then, most importantly, you'll learn how to reverse the pattern with systems built for the brain you actually have. You know that impulse, the one that fires before you even think about it. Your brain was designed for a world that no longer exists. Its core structures, fear, reward, decision, were shaped over hundreds of thousands of years. A world where a reward meant planting a seed and waiting a season for the result, where a threat had fur and claws and was not a push notification. That operating system has not upgraded. But in the last 3 generations, the environment around it has transformed completely. First, television and broadcast media, they began training your mind to expect constant stimulation. Then the internet collapsed waiting into seconds. Then the smartphone slipped an infinite scroll of novelty, alerts, and micro rewards directly into your pocket. Now the average person checks their phone over 90 times a day. Each glance can deliver a dopamine hit, a like, a price drop, a breaking headline, tiny bursts of immediacy that condition your nervous system to expect relief now. And here's the first biological truth underneath all of it. Your brain runs 2 competing valuation systems. The limbic system, especially the nucleus accumbens, fires up when a reward is immediate. It reacts to money you can spend now, comfort you can feel now, a purchase that changes your emotional state within minutes. And then the prefrontal cortex, the part of you that plans, that simulates the future, that weighs long-term trade-offs, fires for abstract goals like retirement or financial independence. But that signal is quieter. It requires more energy, and under stress, it gets overruled. Neuroimaging studies show that when people choose between a smaller reward now and a larger reward later, the limbic system activates rapidly. If the prefrontal cortex can engage and run the long-term calculation, people often make the wiser decision. But if the person is tired, distracted, or emotionally overloaded, the limbic system wins before the negotiation even begins. That's why a stressful day can hijack a 30-year plan. A bill feels urgent. A small purchase that gives comfort feels urgent. But what if the version of you 10 years from now? That person activates the same brain region as a stranger. You don't feel them. You have to construct them. The brain quietly discounts the future. It says, take the relief now. We'll fix the future later. And that one sentence has destroyed more wealth than most people realize. This is where wealth building gets complicated. Because wealth building asks you to ignore hundreds of micro rewards today for one macro reward years down the line. Compounding asks you to believe in a result before your nervous system feels the proof. It asks you to side with the prefrontal simulation of a future self over the screaming limbic demand for comfort today. Your technology is selling you immediacy. Your financial future is asking for patience, and your own biology, your ancient, unupgraded brain, is caught right in the middle. And that is why so many people fall off. Not because the math is hard, but because the neural competition is unfair. That tightness in your chest when you check your bank balance, that's not a character flaw. It's a neurocognitive state. Let's talk about scarcity for a moment. Not as a mindset, but as something that physically rewires what your brain can do. In a 2013 article published in Science, the magazine, researchers found that financial scarcity can reduce cognitive performance on tasks requiring fluid intelligence and executive control by the equivalent of 13 IQ points. The very functions you need to make long-term wealth decisions diminish. Scarcity doesn't just empty the wallet, it crowds the mind. The brain starts looping, scanning, calculating survival probabilities on repeat. What if something happens? What if I need this money? What if I invest it and lose it? The more neural real estate those loops take, the less is left for strategy, patience, and clear foresight. This is why telling someone under financial pressure to just be disciplined often fails. You're asking a brain running survival software to suddenly act as if it's safe. It won't. And now add the modern technology layer. Scarcity loops are supercharged by constant access. You can check your bank account at 2 a.m. You can see real-time market drops. You can scroll through the curated wealth of others while your own numbers flash red. The brain doesn't register these as abstract information. It registers them as social threat and material danger. Now, under that load, people make decisions that look irrational from the outside but feel protective on the inside. Holding too much cash, avoiding investments, quitting before the plan can fail, the pattern is destructive. But the emotional logic is protection. And you cannot reverse a protective pattern by insulting it. You reverse it by building something safer. But there is a deeper layer most people never see. It's not just scarcity that destroys plans. It's the ego's hiding place. In a 1978 study, clinical psychologist Dr. Stephen Berglas and social psychologist Dr. Edward Jones showed something startling. People who feared their success wouldn't hold up under a second test actively chose a drug they were told would impair their performance. They sabotaged themselves before failure could expose them. Think about what that reveals. That part of us that would rather protect the story of who we might be than risk discovering who we actually are. Because if you give your full effort and fail, the failure feels personal. It doesn't just whisper, this strategy didn't work. It starts to whisper, I wasn't disciplined enough. I wasn't smart enough. Maybe I'm not the kind of person who can actually build wealth. So the brain creates an escape route. Procrastinate, overspend, skip the investment contribution, avoid the budget, ignore the numbers. Now, if failure comes, the ego has somewhere to hide. It can say, I could have done it if I had more time. That wasn't my real effort. I'll restart next month when things are different. And that excuse feels like protection, but it's not protection. It's a prison. Because the same excuse that protects you from judgment also blocks the evidence that you could have succeeded. You can spend years protecting yourself from the pain of failing, while also protecting yourself from the proof that consistency would have worked. The budget never seems to get enough repetition. The investment strategy never gets enough time. And the person keeps saying, nothing works for me, when the deeper truth may be this: nothing has been allowed to work long enough to prove itself. There's a pattern that puzzles people who have never lived it. Some people do not fall apart when the goal is far away. They fall apart when they are nearly there. You might think drive builds the closer you get to the goal. And for many, it does. But for a quiet number of people, something else happens. The nearer they get to the goal, the more the body pulls back. In a 2010 study, researchers tracked people moving toward a money goal. Those with a deep fear of the win, when they moved from halfway to almost done, began to delay. They began to spend instead of save, and they stopped watching the numbers and sabotaged the final stretch. Not because the goal no longer mattered, but because the goal began to feel real. A win brings weight. It brings being seen, expectations, and it asks you to become someone who can hold what you've built. For a mind that knows only tight times or an identity wrapped around the fight, that ground feels foreign. The brain has a region that watches the gap between where you are and what you're aiming for. When the finish line comes close, it can flag the nearing win, not as a reward, but as a threat. A threat not to life, but to the self you know. Falling short may hurt, but it's familiar. A broken plan comes with an old story. I always mess this up. Money just isn't my thing. Those lines ache, but they're known. They're familiar. Winning is unknown to the nervous system. It asks things. Will people want more from me now? Can I keep this up? Will I outgrow the people I love? So the person gets close, and then the whole system jerks backwards. Not because the goal stopped calling, but because the goal started becoming real. This is why the last mile can feel heavier than the first step. At the start, the dream is still a daydream. Near the end, the dream starts asking for a new you. You didn't land here by accident. You landed here because a quiet voice in you has been whispering, I know the pattern, I can almost name it, and I'm done letting it win. So now, we get to the part you came for, not the shallow advice, not try harder, be more disciplined, or pull yourself up by your bootstraps, Junior. The real question cuts deeper. How do you undo wiring that is older than your memory and now gets fed every time your phone lights up? For those of us whose inner guard learned to protect an old identity by murmuring, "You're not smart enough, not steady enough, not worthy, not built for this," the problem was never a lack of facts. It was conditioning. The mind protecting a familiar version of you, even when that version is quietly burning the future you say you want. Now that we have named the trap, backed it with cold science, and dragged it out into the light, the question becomes, how do we rip out that old operating system? Part of you learned to feel safer staying the same. So how do we stop fear from dressing up as logic? How do we stop delay from feeling like shelter? We are taking apart the old identity that survived on avoidance, excuses, fear, and hiding, and building one that can hold steady practice, patience, winning, and growth. This is where the turning begins. You do it by removing negotiation from the moments when your brain is weakest. Here's the frame, built for the brain that you actually have. First, make your future self a felt presence, not a foggy idea. The future you cannot stay a blur. When people are guided to imagine their future in rich detail, where they wake up, what the air feels like, how their body moves throughout the day, the mind begins to care more about that person's outcome. Before you spend, ask, am I taking from my future self or sending power forward? Before you stop, ask, would the me of 2035 thank me for halting here? Every act of saving is a transfer of strength through time. Second, lean on systems, not willpower. Willpower is a real fuel and it runs out. The front part of your brain burns energy when forcing control, and under repeat demands, it weakens. A system never needs to feel inspired. It moves because it was built to move. Automatic transfers, automatic investing, separate accounts that are hard to touch on impulse, written rules, a weekly money check-in at the same hour. These matter because they shrink the number of times your impulsive wiring gets a vote on your future. A system is what you build when your mood cannot be trusted with tomorrow. If every wise money move demands a fresh battle against your phone's ping and your brain's craving, fatigue will win. Build the machine before the feeling hits. Third, turn foggy wishes into if-then rules. The brain follows clear cues better than vague hope. A fuzzy goal would sound like, boy, I need to save more. That's noise. A brain-ready rule would sound like, when money lands, the first portion goes to my future before anything else. Now the path is cut. If I want a quick buy over a set amount, I'll wait a day and write the reason. If the market drops hard, I read my own written plan before I move. If I miss a week, I'll restart the next payday with zero shame. You see the pattern? The brain obeys commands, not wishes. Fourth, grow trust in yourself through tiny done deeds. Your brain's confidence does not answer to big speeches. It answers to proof, to completed actions that were promised and then delivered. Do not aim to change everything in one emotional surge. Make one promise small enough that your mind cannot argue against it. Track spending for 7 days, automate a tiny amount, keep one account untouched for a month, review your money every Sunday for 15 minutes. Each kept promise drops a small signal of safety. Each repeat tells the mind, this is who we are now. Confidence is just evidence collected through completed actions. Fifth, never let a missed day become a broken identity. This is where most plans bleed out. A person slips once and the old voice grabs the story. See, I always fail. The whole month is ruined. That's not discipline. That's perfectionism in disguise. A missed day is not the enemy. The story you glue to it is. The rule is brutally simple. Do not miss twice on purpose. Restart without drama. Return without shame. Continue without needing the perfect feeling inside. That is how grown adults build wealth in a noisy digital world. Not through fantasy, through return. So, here's the challenge. For the next 30 days, do not try to get rich quick. Try to become steady enough that wealth can rely on you. Pick one small move, small enough that you can repeat it. One automatic transfer, one weekly check-in, one pause before an impulse buy, one written if-then rule, one promise to the future you. Then keep it for 30 days. Not perfectly, steadily. Because the goal is not to prove you're superhuman. The goal is to prove that you are no longer available for the old pattern. Your brain may have learned through fear. It may have been shaped by a digital world that sells now, but the brain can also learn structure. It can learn calm, patience, and the same brain can build a new identity through repeated proof that your own completed actions provide. And at some point, wealth stops feeling like a distant thing. It becomes the natural result of who you keep proving yourself to be. So if this hits something, do not let it drift. Write down the one action you will repeat for the next 30 days. Then guard it like your future depends on it. Because the future does. And the future doesn't change when you understand the pattern. The future changes when you interrupt it. So that's the end of this one. I have been Chris with Down the Rabbit Hole, presented by Devil in the Details, and I'll see you in the next one.